Russia's push to annex 4 regions in Ukraine has moved into a new phase, with authorities going door to door in what they say are referendums. Armed soldiers are reported to be forcing people to vote. The ballot is meant to decide whether the occupied areas should join Russia. The votes are taking place in Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson. They cover about 15% of Ukraine's territory. Ukraine's Western allies have condemned the ballots as a sham that appeared to be a step towards Russian annexation. Meanwhile, Moscow is mobilising military reservists as President Vladimir Putin looks to bolster his forces in Ukraine. On Wednesday, the Kremlin announced 300,000 reservists would be sent to fight in Ukraine. In a moment, we'll speak to Al Jazeera's Mohammed Vall, who's in Moscow. But first, let's go to Gabriel Elizondo, who joins us from Kyiv. Hello there, Gabriel. So reports armed soldiers are going door to door in these occupied parts of the country. How is that playing out on the ground? What are you hearing?
Yeah, well, it's important to, again, remember that it's very hard to get very clear information on what exactly is happening where this voting is taking place. Of course, it's on Ukrainian territory that is controlled by Russian forces. There are no international independent election monitors there, and media movements are incredibly restricted in that area. With that said, what we're hearing from various Telegram channels and from social media, what we're hearing from Ukrainians that live in that area, talking to families that are outside of the area where voting is happening, is that we are seeing evidence of Russian appointed officials with military going door to door in some instances in apartment buildings, knocking on doors, allegedly coercing people to vote or the way they want them to vote. We're also hearing about Ukrainians in some of those areas as well, maybe closing their windows on their homes, shutting their gates, trying to pretty much keep a low profile in fear of having to be forced to vote in a way that perhaps they don't want to. We're also seeing other images put out by Russian sources that appear to show pretty normal and organized voting happening in some areas as well. This is a huge area. It covers 4 different regions, and all the voting is happening in slightly different ways throughout the whole area. We are also hearing that some people that are being asked to vote, if they show they have Russian passports, they are immediately given their papers to join the Russian military. So this is the scene that we're starting to get painted here on this second day of voting. Russia said they plan for this voting to end on Monday, when we expect at that point the Russian Election Commission in Moscow will presumably start to release some sort of what they say will be results. Important to again point out, here in Ukraine, they are totally dismissing this referendum out of hand. They say, and you'll ask them, and they'll jokingly, and not really jokingly, even say, we think the results will probably be 99%, as one official told us, in a way being sarcastic, saying that that's their way of saying that they believe Moscow has the results of this referendum predetermined.
Yeah, indeed. And Gabe, Kyiv is accusing Iran of supplying drones to Russia. What more do you know about those allegations?
Yeah, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that Iran is collaborating with evil by providing drones to Russia that the Ukrainian military says that the Russians are using here in Ukraine. Just on Saturday, the Ukrainians announced they shot down at least 8 Iranian drones that were being used by Russia. And because of this, Ukraine announcing that they are downgrading diplomatic relations with Iran and forcing some of their diplomats here in Kyiv to leave the country. For Iran's part, they say that they are disappointed by this, and they say a spokesperson for the Iran Foreign Ministry says that Ukraine should refrain from being influenced by third parties who seek to destroy relations between the two countries. But clearly, Ukraine is very upset about Russia providing these drones, Iran providing these drones to Russia, and is now taking some sort of action against it.
All right, thanks for bringing us up to speed. Gabriel Elizondo, live for us in Kyiv. Let's bring in Mohammed Vall now, who's standing by in Moscow. Mohammed, you've got some news on changes to Russia's military department. Tell us more.
Yes, Emily, the Defense Ministry has announced that the Deputy Defense Minister for Logistics in the Russian Army has been replaced by a new top general, Colonel General Mikhail Mizintsev. Mikhail Mizintsev served in Syria, according to Western sources, in 2015, and he was part of the planning and execution of the bombing of civilians in Aleppo. Again, according to Western sources. But after that, he became much more known for his role in Mariupol, in the siege of Mariupol in April and May. And that's why the British Foreign Office placed him under sanctions for what they accused him of being responsible for the bombing of civilians there and for what they described as atrocities in Mariupol. Now, Mizintsev is in charge of the logistics at a very crucial moment for Russia in this conflict, at a time when there is a lot of criticism of the way the whole logistics operation has been handled since the beginning of this operation, what Russia calls special operation in Ukraine. We have seen the beginning of that operation when hundreds of tanks were placed in the wrong places and were exposed to destruction in a very brief time in various parts of Ukraine. And now Russia is trying to deploy 300,000 new young men to the front. And the need is high for a man who can control this operation and make it successful.
All right, we appreciate the update. Mohammed Vall, live for us in Moscow.